Resident Evil 9 is now on the apocalypse of a horizon. With Resident Evil 4 Remake not yet fully unleashed, as we almost certainly have Ada's campaign to experience later on, potentially later this year or early next. No confirmed sources at this time, but Capcom isn't going to want to let Resident Evil 4 Remake hang unfinished for overly long either. Also, if we base the timeline off of how long it took Capcom to release Shadows of Rose DLC for Resident Evil Village, that puts us at or around a year or so. But keep in mind that also included bundled content of additional characters in the Mercenaries mode, a third-person mode added for the game, and a fully bundled Gold Edition version for all systems. Taking what they did for Resident Evil Village, we can translate that to roughly the same thing for Resident Evil 4's remake. I know you're wondering. This video is about Resident Evil 9 though, so get to the point. Well, timing is key here, and we need to know what's on Capcom's platter in order to figure out a logical time frame for Resident Evil 9. So just hold on. If Resident Evil 4 Remake is yet to receive the following of additional characters for Mercenaries mode, Ada obviously, and possibly more, an Ada campaign DLC, and let's be real, Capcom is going to make a gold version of Resident Evil 4 Remake to release with the base game because it's a smart and basic business practice for any gaming studio to do. That puts Capcom focused and zeroed in on this releasing before anything involving Resident Evil 9. Hold on though. Capcom likes to have showcase events to spotlight their new and upcoming content. That means we can likely expect an event that shows off the bundled Resident Evil 4 Remake Edition and DLC Ada content, but also very well might have a teaser for Resident Evil 9 in the process. Unless, of course, Capcom is deciding to drag Resident Evil 9 out even further, in which case the alternative would be another remake, let's just say Code Veronica or Resident Evil 5 as the most likely of options. Just so we're clear though, this is entirely speculation using opinion, common business practice, and Capcom's release history to conclude a rough estimate of what they'll likely do. I may very well be so wrong, they make me look like a fool and release an entirely different set of games or remakes, or basically none of what I just spent the last 5 minutes talking about. Thanks for making me look like a fool, Umbrella. I mean Capcom. I said Capcom. This time. Let's say we have a timeline for Resident Evil 9, and it comes to 2 or 3 years from now, roughly 2025-ish. Do we have any clue of what it's about? Any updates or leaks of information to garner to formulate a drop of hype or anticipation? No? Well, cue end video. Just kidding, we know a few things. Confirmed in some ways and not others. Capcom has specifically stated officially to IGN Japan that creating the Shadows of Rose story to conclude the Winters family saga. Does that mean family as a whole, all three? Ethan, Mia, and Rose? Or 2 games and a DLC was enough, so now it's time to return to the original cast for potentially the last numerical mainline entry, according to rumors. The ending of Shadows of Rose is the same jump in time end that Resident Evil Village was, with Rose being an adult and a strange figure walking up to the vehicle that Rose is in. Maybe being Ethan, but also probably not being him based on the fact that he's dead and all. And this cutscene also takes place many years after his demise. Also, Old Man Chris is off somewhere, still monitoring Rose and ready to save the world from its next apocalyptic event. This could all lead into Chris being the main man for one last ride, if it is one last ride, a continuation of Rose, or Leon, Claire, or Jill have one more go still left in the tank. if they're still in fact around at this time. Did they keep the large time skip in place as well? They could very easily ignore Rose and use Chris right after the events of Resident Evil Village to continue in Resident Evil 9. The original Resident Evil staff would be pretty old post time skip. Leon might throw out his back with his power kicks. As you now know, Resident Evil 9 is codenamed Apocalypse, the game's story being partially based around what's called a ninth moon phase. As you may already know, there are 8 phases the moon has, going from a completely non-illuminated new moon to a fully bright full moon and ending back at the starting point. In various Native American tribes, some have a ninth moon cycle, but their moon phases are more loose with time and more centered around meaning. Depending on the tribe, the meaning can vary greatly. I'm going to focus on what connects the most using leaked information. In a minute, I'll further discuss the enemies, specifically the Wendigo, but first we know the Wendigo has ties to a number of Algonquian speaking tribes. The ninth moon phase within their folklore varies to a degree, but can be depicted as a total lunar eclipse. This moon cycle can symbolize honesty, opening new doorways, and the closing of old, transformation, as well as the blossoming of a new life. We can partially confirm Capcom's use of 2 codenamed enemies, the Wendigo and the Goatman. A Wendigo is a mythical entity based off the Great Plains and Great Lakes Native American folklore, resembling an antlered-like monster typically found around lakes enveloped by forest. This leak goes a bit further, suggesting these 2 entities may shapeshift as well, and into humans to make the story likely a riddle of who and what to believe. That connects well with the transformation phase of the moon I just mentioned. The Wendigo are also known to be cannibalistic, and leaks rumor more of a focus on body horror, tying well into the theme thus far. The game already sounds like enemies stalking you throughout a foggy forest and confusing the player whether it's ally or foe throughout the game. As for the Goatman, if I rewind Resident Evil a bit, I will say that the original Resident Evil 4 was meant to be a very different game, even being at one point more of a ghost-focused game, where a Hookman acted as a Mr. X and hunted you throughout the game. It does feel a little bit like Capcom hasn't forgotten this, and seeing how they continuously seem to use it, see Resident Evil 7, 8 or Village, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and the Resident Evil 3 Remake, expect something very similar. The last known enemy so far is an early boss, a Barghest, based on Northern English folklore. It resembles a black dog-like creature, sometimes being more of a ghost or goblin shapeshifter. Sounds like it could be a pesky nuisance for early on in the game. We also are aware via leaks that Capcom intends to place the game's setting in a ghost town in Western America. If the creatures are based off of, or at least loosely based off of, Native American folklore, the great outdoors await us in the dead of night. Expect to traverse through forests, caves, through and alongside rivers and lakes. The opening segment in Resident Evil Village before arriving at the town may seem very familiar. That was a lot of leaky information and speculation, but know that Resident Evil 9 is still quite a ways off. Expect more Resident Evil 4 Remake content first, and hope for a glimpse of Resident Evil 9 later this year. There's a lot of information to get a feel for what Resident Evil 9 could be like, especially with the Wendigo and Goatman, as well as the Ghost Town setting laying a pretty solid foundation for expectations. We all are well versed in the gameplay already, both being a first-person and third-person experience, likely both being implemented, just a matter of at release or separately once again, like Resident Evil Village. A lot of ingredients to make a fun game, whether this is the end for the mainland series or just the Ethan family story trilogy. What do you most want to see in Resident Evil 9? A returning playable character, maybe not named Chris? The cast reuniting a la Death Island? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time on Hittobox.